being an interesting concept. So
yes. This having a lot of interest in many places. Okay, yes, we are going to begin. Just give me 1 minute to fix all the details, and then we begin. Some people are joining. You know, we're not only in Zoom, but we are transmitting live in the Facebook page of our center. Okay, Center of Asian Studies.
okay.
Okay. Okay. Just 1 second more. Okay, we're lining up. So now we are going to begin, okay? First of all, good morning, or good morning if you are on the other side of the Pacific. Good evening in Peru. I am Professor Carlos Aquino, Director of the Asian Studies Centers of San Marcos National University. And in these days, we are very pleased to have Professor Kei Koga, and he will talk about Japan strategy in the Indo-Pacific. Just allow me 1 minute to talk about Professor Koga. He's currently assistant professor in the Public Policy and Global Affairs program at School of Social Science, Nanyang Technological University in Singapore, and also assistant professor in the Rahatman School of International Studies, Nanyang Technological University, and he has been also assistant professor in Public Policy and Global Affairs in the program School of Humanities and Social Science at Nanyang Technological University, and also he has a position as a teaching assistant in the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy in Tufts University. His higher education, he did it in the United States. He got his master in the George Washington University, the Allen School of International Affairs, and his PhD he got from Tufts University in the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy. He has been visiting fellow in several places. I just mentioned the three last one. He was visiting fellow in the Center for Asian Studies at Kanagawa University, Japan. He was also visiting fellow, Japan chair, the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, and he was research fellow in the Belfer Center for Science and International Affairs in the John Kennedy School of Government in Harvard University. And he has published a lot of papers, books, yes, I mentioned 2 or 3 of them. He's going to, he's going to publish in 2002 a book about managing great power politics, Asian institutional strategy, and South China. And he has published a book about, in 2017, about reinventing regional security institution, power shift, ideas, and institutional change in East Asia and Africa. Okay, and he have right not only in English but also in Japanese. Okay. Then we're going to give the floors to Professor Koga. He will talk about 30 minutes more or less, and then we will have some comment by Ambassador Juan Carlos Capuña, and then we can open the floor to some question and answer from the panel. Please, Professor, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind introduction, Professor Aquino. I'm the Kei Koga from the Nanyang Technological University, now currently located in Singapore. And I'd like to express my appreciation for the organizing this seminar and having me at the UNM-SM. I'm very excited to make presentation here because this is not only my first engagement in Peru, but also I could have the opportunity to have discussion on your view on the Japanese diplomacy. And so I very much looking forward to the discussion and the interaction with you. Today, as the Professor Aquino indicated, that I'm going to talk about the Japan's strategy toward the in the Pacific or in the Indo-Pacific region. And I have the 20 to 30 minutes for the presentation. So I'll try to make it the succinct, and then try to ensure that we could have the enough time for the discussion. But first of all, let me share my presentation, the PowerPoint file, because then it's actually easier to see like what the main point for this. So it's I think this is the okay. Let me. Okay, everybody can see this. Okay, all right. So again, the title for my presentation is the Japan strategy in the Pacific, and let me just talk about a little bit about the kind of emergence of the Japan's concept, the so-called free and open in the Pacific strategy, or free and open in the Pacific concept. As you can see here, the Japan strategy, or this concept, was actually launched by the Prime Minister Abe. He was the Prime Minister from 2012 to and then 2016 at the Tokyo International Conference on the African Development, so-called TICAD, in Nairobi. He emphasized the importance of the region in the Pacific, and then he thought this was the kind of the region that like Japan wants to extend its strategic horizon, and then the commitment to maintain the peace and security, as well as the economic prosperity. So what he was actually trying to do is as you can see on the right side of this slide, the engagement in this kind of really big broad region, including the Indian Ocean and then Pacific Ocean. If you go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan's website, you could actually find many information, or much information about the free and open in the Pacific concept. And then to make it short, there are only several kind of concepts and then the pillars to pursue this the strategic vision. First of all, the concept, it entails making the Indo-Pacific region free and open and as the international public good. So everybody can actually access and use freely except for the sovereign territory and so and so. And also ensuring the rules-based international order. This becomes this has become the again like buzzword for the international community. But then the rules-based international order was explicitly described in the free and open in the Pacific concept. And also it says acknowledging the importance of the ASEAN centrality and unity. Association of Southeast Asian Nation is one of the big regional organization consisting of the 10 Southeast Asian countries. But because the ASEAN has been really active in the nurturing the regional multilateralism for a long time, Japan wants to respect for the ASEAN's kind of the lead, or the ASEAN centrality in the nurturing the regional multilateralism. And then lastly, it says it's not quite no exclusivity, but they are not intending. I mean, Japan is not intending to exclude any country. They actually said they would like to cooperate with any country that supports this the free and open in the Pacific concept. So this is a basic concept that Japan actually created, and then in order to pursue this, Japan also illustrated the three pillars. The one is the promotion and establishment of the rule of law, freedom of navigation, and free trade, etc. This is the basic principles in the Pacific. And then the pursuit of economic prosperity, particularly the connectivity among the regional states, including the free trade area, and then in soft and also hard infrastructure development. And then lastly, the commitment for peace and stability. Japan didn't actually, I mean, as the many other countries, like other many countries, Japan didn't explicitly talk about the geopolitical implication for this, But then they actually mentioned about the importance of the capacity building, because there are many the countries in the region which lacks their law enforcement capability in the maritime domain, and so they actually Japan wants to help build the capacity for those countries, creating the joint program and etc. etc. So this is the basics of the Japan's free and open Indo-Pacific concept. But then the question I think we probably want to pose like threefold. And the first one is why does Japan need a new concept, and how has the concept evolved over time? The free and open in the Pacific, strategy of free and open in the Pacific concept was launched in the 2016. But then why like 2016? This is a really important question to ask. And then secondly, what institutional frameworks does Japan use to implement the FOIP? The FOIP meaning the abbreviation of free and open in the Pacific. Not many people like this abbreviation, but probably I can actually use this term throughout this presentation. So what is the institutional framework that Japan used to implement the FOIP? I'll talk about this. This actually includes the ASEAN, of course, and also the Quad, quadrilateral, used to be called quadrilateral strategic dialogue between the Japan, India, Australia, and the United States. But now we just call it the Quad. So that is a kind of institutional framework that Japan focuses on. So I'll talk a little bit about it. And then lastly, what challenges does Japan face in the future? Because these are not necessarily complete. So what kind of the things Japan needs to do in the future, particularly under the current new administration led by the Prime Minister Kishida. So this is the three questions I want to actually discuss. So first of all, the first question, why the new concept FOIP is actually really important. So at that time it was actually not necessarily clear what is the free and open in the Pacific the strategy is. But then if you actually see the strategic dialogue, strategic environment of the East Asia or Asia in general, then there are big kind of the China factors out there, and then those are the things that the Japan has been concerned about. And then particularly those two are really important. The one is the BRI. As you may have already known, Belt and Road Initiative was launched by the President Xi Jinping in 2013. And many the so-called Western countries or developed countries were just not dismissing, but didn't actually pay much attention to that, because the BRI is not that really important. But on the other hand, other developing countries and also regional countries paid attention to this, because the China was going to provide the infrastructure development assistance to them. And then that actually gives them the big opportunity to build the infrastructure, which leads to the economic prosperity. And the 2013, it actually started. And then 2014, there are more kind of institutionalization of BRI, such as the establishment of the AIIB. Although AIIB is not necessarily embedded in BRI, but it could actually link the BRI. And then by 2016, you could actually see many Southeast Asian countries or the regional countries were really attracted by BRI. And then one big kind of the issue that Japan faced in the 2015 was the Japan and then also the China competed with the railway projects launched by the Indonesia. So there was a bidding that the Japan actually tried to get this kind of the project, and it was the high-speed railway. So as you may have known, that the Japan is pretty good at the creating or establishing the highway, the high-speed railway the project in the many countries. And also you could actually see the Shinkansen, which is the most important famous the kind of bullet train that like Japan has. And Japan was pretty confident, even though the price-wise, China has more kind of upper hand. But then the Japan was pretty confident that like it could get this project. But at the end, the Indonesia actually chose the China because of its kind of financial assistance, etc., etc. And then the Japan felt that the realize how kind of big the Chinese influence became, and also this could actually lead to the certain kind of international challenge toward the existing international order. So that's the BRI was the one of the kind of trigger that the Japan thought free and open in the Pacific was needed to be launched. And then second one is the maritime assertiveness. Japan faced the many challenges in the East China Sea, and there was the certain kind of skirmishes, and then also diplomatic law between China and then the Japan in 2010 and 2012. And then since then, the Chinese presence in the East China Sea increased. So Japan was concerned about this, but at the same time, also if you look at the South China Sea, China was engaging in the land reclamation and also the so-called militarization. And then also China explicitly rejected the ruling by the South China Sea Tribunal, arbitration tribunal. And then the many international or regional states couldn't actually effectively respond to this. So if you let the status quo or like this kind of the behavior going on, maybe like China could have more influence in East Asia and beyond, and then probably Japan, the United States, and others might not be able to kind of counter effectively. So this is the kind of background of the free and open in the Pacific strategy. But if you take a look at this, then there are many kind of vague components of the concept. Then what we have known in the 2016 was that the objective is basically to maintain and strengthen the existing international order. International order meaning that it includes the fundamental values such as the rule of law, no use of threat of force, etc., etc. That you could actually find these principles in the UN Charter also. And then also what we know is this geographically it was actually really broad. It includes the two continents, the Asia and Africa, and also the two vast the oceans, Pacific and then Indian Oceans. So so if we actually combine what the Prime Minister Abe said in the 2016, that we could actually vaguely find the focus could be the threefold. The one is maritime security, and then fundamental values in international arena, and then economic development and connectivity. So these kind of three are probably the Japan's focus that the people actually thought about. And then what about the institutional framework? How do we actually pursue these three important factors, the interest? And then they didn't actually, Japan didn't say this, but then Japan said it needed to create or enhance strategic ties with the Australia, India, and the United States. So, I mean, if you combine them together, then that was the other kind of framework of Quad. But this is the kind of the things Japan actually put forward. So basically at the beginning of this free and open in the Pacific, what we could actually say is probably the strategic direction of the FOIP was the US in, China down, Australia, India, ASEAN up. So I mean, the Japan wants to enable the regional states to have the capability to respond to the China's the rise. And then the China down, meaning China is not going to be excluded, but like China should be constrained by the international the rules and the norms that the Western country and Japan and the international community created. So in that sense, the China down. And then US in, meaning that the United States is a pivotal player in the region. I mean, it is the only the superpower in the world, and it has the capability for a global reach. So in that sense, US should be involved in this affair. So then these are kind of three the important things that the Japan kept in mind. So the here I actually explained, does it actually meaning the containment or balancing or hedging against China? Not quite. I think the this is not the concept itself. Actually, really, the major part of the concept derives from the rise of China, and then definitely this is the fact. But at the same time, it's not only the China. Like they want to actually create or like the maintain existing international order, and then the again the try to put this kind of international order or to the China. So this is the strategic direction that the Japan had at the beginning. So and then again, like still the concept was vague. So they needed to actually work out what specific kind of the project they need to pursue. But also again, like the principle is the too general, so they might want to actually kind of fine tune what kind of the things they want to focus on. So the concept evolved. The concept has been kind of although the most kind of core components of the FOIP hasn't been changed much, but then if you take a look at the kind of closely about the how the concept was described and then what kind of narrative they use, it's actually evolving. I mean, this is the kind of most illustrative the map like I found from the 2016. So the 2016, on the left upper side, this can see this map. This is a kind of the geographical scope that the focused on at the beginning. They said, yes, I mean, Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean are two important the oceans Japan needs to commit. But then here you could see the Pacific Ocean is actually limited to the Western Pacific. They kind of basically, this is more like East Asia plus the Indian Ocean. So these are the things at the beginning, but then because this actually becomes the inconsistent with what Japan said. So then it was, I think that in 2017 or 2018, they actually changed the map to include the entire Pacific Ocean. And then you could find that two vast the Indian and also the Pacific Ocean are included in the FOIP concept, geographical map. And then now the 2018, there are some kind of pushback coming from the regional states or regional the actors, particularly ASEAN, because the ASEAN was left out in the concept. And then the Japan realized, okay, probably like, yes, I mean, like ASEAN is pretty important, so we need to actually include it. And then they actually put the ASEAN in the middle because the geographically it's the center. And then ASEAN has been, again, as I said, the active in the nurturing the regional multilateralism in East Asia. So they need to be involved. And then they actually created this map, putting the ASEAN as importance. And now, like if you go to the Ministry, again, like Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the website, you could actually see the kind of the more kind of vague the map, which is okay, but because it encompasses the entire two oceans and the two continents. So these are the kind of really small things, but I think like this is the we could actually see how vague it was and how the it was not entirely completely shared even among the Japanese decision makers. I mean, Minister for Foreign Affairs tried to figure out what it was, and then also the other ministries, and as well as the Prime Minister's office, etc., etc. So the concept is essentially evolving, and then I'm just going to sketch out how the concept evolved. So going back to the again like 2016, the main issue was the what geographical scope and then what kind of issue they actually want to focus on. And as I explained already, the geographical focus are twofold: the two continents and then also two oceans. And then also this is more the issue that the Japan wanted to focus on was the more kind of socio-economic, basically, and also the political. Fundamental value is really important. But also at the same time, they wanted to kind of promote the connectivity and then also the economic development. In 2016, the trigger of this kind of FOIP concept was partly coming from the China's BRI, the increasing influence of the Chinese BRI. So socioeconomic aspect was pretty important for this concept. But then they didn't actually know except for these two kind of big the principles and also focus. They didn't know what kind of the things they want to actually share with the other like-minded countries. And then what happened was in 2017, November 2017, Japan actually had the summit meeting with the United States. And they actually started off by deciding or clarifying the three pillars of the Indo-Pacific, free and open Indo-Pacific. The one is the promotion and establishment of rule of law. That's what I talked about. And then the second one, pursuit of economic prosperity. And third one, commitment for the peace and stability. So if you could actually see today's the three pillars of the Japan's FOIP concept, it was actually coming from this the origin of the concept. The three pillars are actually coming from the U.S.-Japan the summit meeting in November 2017. So it was actually included, and then that was actually decided not only by Japan but with the United States. And then but still the most important focus for Japan was infrastructure development, because the development was the most important kind of Japan's foreign policy strategy in the past. And then now like the China is challenging with its own kind of standard. So they wanted to kind of push back this infrastructure development, the aspect of the Indo-Pacific kind of geopolitics. And then the 2018 to 2019, then the ASEAN factor came in. ASEAN was at this point, ASEAN was a bit concerned about the increasing the great power rivalries or the strategic competitions in the region and beyond between not only the United States and the China, but also between the Japan and China. And then one of the most the ASEAN has been concerned about the Japan's FOIP the strategy because FOIP concept, because it didn't mention much about the ASEAN's role. So, and then the ASEAN actually talked to the Japan, and then first of all, the FOIP concept, free and open Indo-Pacific strategy. The Japanese government specifically used the term strategy, and ASEAN didn't like it because it could connote with the strategic competition or great power competition. And then they asked to drop the strategy, which the Japan accommodated and then dropped it. So now like we are calling it like free and open in the Pacific rather than the free and in the Pacific strategy. And then from that point, the Japanese government placed the emphasis on ASEAN centrality and the neutrality, especially in the official documents or so. And then also in order to kind of show this is not the containment strategy or balancing strategy against China, the Japan used the more kind of engagement policy toward the China. So if you actually follow the Japan-China relations, close to the I think the 2018 to 2019, there was the many talks about their cooperation on the infrastructure development in the third country. So they are actually trying to kind of create the cooperative framework and then build some infrastructure in the different countries in the region. Even though like now this actually to some extent disappeared, but that was the kind of like Japanese posture. And then also geographically they expanded. I mean, this is at the end of the day, Indo-Pacific principle was not necessarily only the regional the principle. It's actually embedded in the international norms and also rules. So the many countries like the European countries, United Kingdom, France, Germany actually came in. And then currently, they actually set all the kind of principle and concept. So they use they created the institutionalized the Quad. They engage Japan engaged ASEAN, and then by doing so, they try to expand facilitate order building in the Pacific. So again, my point here is the FOIP concept is not the kind of stasis. I mean, it's not like the fixed concept from the beginning. It's actually evolving. It could actually include some of the elements of the balancing against China, but it also includes some of the elements of the engagement with China. And also there was certain kind of the coordination, policy coordination between the major kind of regional powers like India and Australia, obviously United States. So essentially this concept was evolutionary, even though now like it becomes more kind of stable, but then at the beginning, like the first kind of 4 or 5 years, then that was the really kind of evolving. And then how do we characterize this? I actually use the term called through the concept called the tactical hedging. It's the kind of how do I say, the message, the diplomatic signaling to the international community, inferring that there was some kind of change in the Japan's strategy, but then they are open to the other countries' opinion. So as you can see, the interaction between the ASEAN and then Japan shows the Japan was actually trying to accommodate the ASEAN's demand, and then they changed the term, and then also they actually emphasized the ASEAN centrality more. So I think these are the things. They actually deliberately make it vague first, and then they solicit some of the opinions from the international community and change it. And then they actually, if they change it, those countries are going to support the concept. And then this support is really important in the order building, because currently the international order is based on the multilateralism. And then also how the legitimacy is based on the multilateralism, so that they want to get as many support as possible. So this is kind of the tactical hedging that Japan did through the FOIP concept. I'm just gonna skip this, but then how do we actually enforce or implement this? Now, because we are moving, Japan was moving into the different phase, and Japan used the kind of 3 tools to implement this. The first one is the bilateral framework. Second one is the trilateral framework, and then the fourth one is the quadrilateral framework. I mean, like, this is not these are not only 3. I mean, there are also other kind of international organizations, etc. But then the Japan actually wanted to use this framework to push forward for the Indo-Pacific strategy. To be sure, I think I'm going to talk more about the quadrilateral framework a bit soon, but then the most important tool that Japan has is the US-Japan alliance. And then this has been consistent since the end of the World War II in 1945. And I mean, not 1945, but in 1960s, that when Japan created the mutual defense treaty with the United States. And the US and Japan actually nurtured the common strategic objective And so this is the kind of basic, the core of the Japan's foreign policy. But like, on the top of that, because of the perception that like, the United States was actually is facing the relative decline in the world affairs, so they needed to expand their strategic ties with other countries. So created the trilateral framework, and then the quadrilateral framework. And then quadrilateral framework drew like much attention from the international community, but the US, Japan, Australia, India are not necessarily congruent in their national interest. So I think the issue is how they gonna actually coordinate their policies and also their national interests. But then one thing they actually could share is that they actually consider the current international order it should be maintained and also enhanced. And then if the new rules and the norms comes in, they want to build on that. So then as we can see, the certain kind of development in Quad. At the beginning, the Quad was not really the concrete institutional framework, but then it actually became kind of foreign ministers meeting, and then the summit was created in the 2021. The Biden administration pushed forward and then expanded the scope of cooperation. Now, like we could actually see 7 the areas of cooperation, which include the COVID-19, infrastructure, climate, education, critical emerging technology, cybersecurity, and space. So I think that we could actually see more the concrete cooperation that like what the country can pursue. And this is actually related to the free and open in the Pacific the concept as well. So the Quad is going to be the one of the core the concept for the free and open in the Pacific. So yeah, I just skip here. And then I just kind of jump into the conclusion. What I actually wanted to say in this presentation are 2 things. The one is it has been evolutionary. The Japan's kind of strategy or strategic concept has been evolutionary, but now it becomes more concrete foreign policy doctrine. And then they actually created more kind of practical cooperative framework to pursue or maintain and enhance the existing the rules-based international order. So this is one. And then the other one is implementing the Japanese foreign policy. Now, like the Japan moves to the phase how to actually implement this free and open in the Pacific concept. And then the Quad becomes more and more institutionalized, and it becomes the important tool for the pushing forward or implementing Japan's the strategic vision. So so that's actually basically it. But then what kind of challenges Japan face? I think like there are 3 the challenges we have. The one is the institutional arrangement in the Pacific. How could we actually balance out the importance of the ASEAN and Quad, and also like a newly emerging minilateralism, such as the AUKUS, the Australia, United Kingdom, and also United States security partnership? How could we actually balance out compatibility? They actually, in broader sense, they agreed, they shared a certain kind of the common values and also their aspirations too. But then in detail, I think some of the cooperation, the strategic cooperation could be pretty exclusive. So how could we actually make it compatible? And then what do you mean by ASEAN centrality? Because ASEAN centrality is often emphasized by those countries, but we don't know what it is. So that's the kind of one thing we need to clarify. And then great power rivalry is intensifying, so that we might be more into the kind of the Cold War type rivalry. If that's the case, then how the Japan actually deals with the regional states like ASEAN, because ASEAN doesn't really want to have the great power rivalry in the region. And then lastly, the Japan's fight under the Kishida administration, new administration. This free and open in the Pacific concept was created by the Prime Minister Abe. And now like, it passed to the Suga administration, and the Suga administration resigned, and then now like the Kishida administration. And then the seems to me like they just put more emphasis on continuity, even though like Kishida specifically focused on the geo-economic security perspective, but then basically the basic principle are the same. But then if that's the case, what kind of initiative does Kishida could provide for the new kind of Indo-Pacific concept? Is it actually just kind of trying to follow the United States, or like just the implement what has been actually discussed? We don't know. But then now the current priority for the Kishida administration is coming up the general election, and in a few days, like there's an election, so they can't actually move much. Probably like at the beginning after the election, if LDP wins, then they might actually nurture some kind of the idea, but it may take time. So I think like these are three challenges that the Japan will face, and then this is really important and interesting period. Because again, it might evolve over time. So this is actually the kind of things I wanted to make the emphasis on. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Professor Koga. Very interesting your conference. In fact, this concept of Indo-Pacific is really having much discussion now. Yes, I want to say something. Yeah, it's very interesting, as you said. This concept began in the last 10 years, more or less. And yeah, before in the East Asia specifically, we were talking about Asia Pacific, but now it is not only the Pacific Ocean, but also the Indian Ocean. Perhaps this is also a recognition of the growing importance of India. And also, as probably more than half of world trade is done through the Indian Ocean to the East Asia. And of course, East Asian countries have an interest in keeping this secure, no? But China said that perhaps this concept of the Indo-Pacific was created against China. Anyway, we recognize, everybody recognizes the growing assertiveness of China, and people think that United States that 20, 30, 40 years ago was the eminent power, not challenge to that, but now they have China, and now they think that United States perhaps alone cannot do this role, and perhaps they want to bring India, they want to bring Australia, they want to bring Japan, no? And it is very interesting that under this concept of Indo-Pacific, as you also said, there have been other initiatives, this quadrilateral dialogue that involves Australia, Japan, India, and United States, or recently the AUKUS, no? That is bringing also not only Australia and United States, but also United Kingdom, really. So it is very, very interesting, this concept, really. But just one last thing before giving the word to Ambassador Juan Carlos Capuñay. Yeah, also you mentioned, but you said, yeah, not only the question is to have or to develop perhaps a concept, or to bring countries together in some political organization, but also, of course, the region have to involve all economies all countries in the development of the region, not only looking at the political side, but also the economic side. But in this aspect, also, I want to ask you, and you can answer later. For example, we have the concept of RCEP. Right? It was supposed that the RCEP was going to bring together the East Asian region, bringing India to the East Asian region. But India, we know they have reason not to be in it. So for some people, it is not enough to just having some political organization. Also, we have to have economic growth. But India, because of internal reason, they are not getting together with the RCP. And some people said that China is going to be the leader in this one, because it's the biggest economy, because many countries in the East Asia region are integrated to it. So even if there is talk in the political aspect about having the Indo-Pacific, but it's lacking some hard power, as they say, economics, and the economics at the end is the one that is the defining thing, because if you want to have political power, economic, military power, you need a big economy, and without this, you cannot have the other one. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to give the word to Ambassador Juan Carlos Capuñat, who will give some comments, and after that you can also speak again, Professor, and then we open the floor to questions. Ambassador Capuñat, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor Aquino. Thank you very much, Professor Koga, for your presentation. Very interesting and very clear about the interest of Japan and how Japan is trying to build a new, a regional integration architecture, a regional integration system. What I see when we talk about the Indo-Pacific Forum or Indo-Pacific Initiative, what I see is that we cannot observe this project if we don't see about the, about the precedent or about other projects or other forums related to this initiative. I will mention just, and you have mentioned two of them, specifically Quad, the quadrilateral strategic and security dialogue. What concerns me, what makes me worry is that Quad, it has some military or strategic content. Even if Quad was started in 2004 as part of the emergency, contribution after the Indonesia earthquake, Quad has had a first military exercise in 2007. After a recess of 10 years, after 2017, President Trump in the US, Quad has a second military exercise. And they brought to the, to the Indo-Pacific area, the largest warships that we ever seen in the area. And you have also to make a relation, and also you have mentioned that about AUKUS, the Australia, United Kingdom, US. It is definitely, a military, or it has definitely a military content. Even create some huge problem with France that was quite, hard when Australia decided to cut the agreement that they had to buy or to get some cooperation or some purchasing of, a nuclear submarine after US decided, together with United Kingdom, provide the nuclear submarine to Australia. And if you see two of them, you have also to see another one, which is probably, very important. It is what they call UK, USA, United Kingdom, United States. Initially was United Kingdom, United States. Now become what they call Five Eyes. Include Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It is a military intelligence strategic, arrangement for the region. What we need in the Asia Pacific region is cooperation, and the way how the Asia Pacific was established was as a cooperation body. Prime Minister Ohira, remember, 1986, he met with the Australian Prime Minister, and they decided to establish APEC, or they introduced the initiative for APEC. What APEC is today, as Professor Aquino says, almost 45% of the GDP and almost 50% of the world trade is in the APEC area. So if we are going to introduce the military strategic content into the Asia Pacific through this Indo-Pacific initiative, it will affect definitely Latin America and countries like Peru. It is true what the Professor Koga said, that ASEAN should have a crucial main role into this initiative. But we have to remember that after ASEAN was established in 1967, one of the first important documents that ASEAN approved was in 1971, and it was the declaration of the Asia Pacific as not Asia Pacific, of the Southeast Asia as a region of peace, security, and free trade. But if we are going to introduce a kind of a military bloc into the Asia Pacific, it will be confronting this first document of ASEAN. So I think ASEAN will be very cautious to go together with this initiative. They will be very happy with the new, with the new approach of Japan. But the Professor Koga said, when Japan decided to offer more attention, to pay more attention to economic and cooperation instead of strategic and military content. The concept that initially was the outer ring of Eurasia, now it's becoming more, a forum that replaces confrontation for integration and replace, strategic content for cooperation. And it will provide a very good contribution to the Asia Pacific region. The Asia Pacific region, what we need is the participation of every country, major power, into the regional integration structure. Thanks to Japan, after US withdraw from the TPP, we signed, all the members of TPP, we signed, the 11 members we signed, and then the CPTPP was established. That kind of body that we need. That body will promote trade, that body will promote investment. What we need is a kind of understanding. We don't need to introduce, concepts based on some strategic initiatives. The position of the President Biden is in some way the same of the President Trump in this issue. Both of them go along with what they call the strategic framework of the Pacific, of the Indo-Pacific, the SFIP. It was approved by the President Trump early January or early this year, and was the basis for later on for the summit of the Quad in Washington, September this year. Something that is also very important, and that it was mentioned by the Professor Koga, is about that the concept of the Indo-Pacific is at the end, the concept of a regional organization integrated by two oceans, by two systems. But what we'll have to see is that both oceans, they are not only geographically connected, they are interconnected into a maritime system. 60% of the world trade goes through the Indo-Pacific and Asia Pacific region. We have to protect, but APEC has developed a number of initiatives in order to protect the trade, in order to promote the trade. We don't need to bring the military ships. We don't need to bring the military forces in order to introduce some, distortional factor that will create confrontation instead of, and is now creating confrontation instead of cooperation. Not only China, but I have read in other papers that they are talking about now that this new initiative of the Quad, of the AUKUS, and the other ones, including the Indo-Pacific, they are representing the new Cold War scenario. No more the European Cold War right after the Second World War. Now they brought the Cold War element into the Asia-Pacific region through the presence of military exercise, to the presence of the Five Eyes, or the presence of, including the AUKUS. It seems to me that who is going to be, who is today one of the main or key factors is India. India has a key role factor to play, a key role within this initiative. But also India will be the big winner. It will not be the US. If the US goes with the Indo-Pacific, it will be an overstretching of its power. It will be weakening APEC. I was surprised when the Vice President Harris, Professor Okoga has to remember, during her visit to Singapore, he announced that USA would like to be the site for APEC 2023. But this kind of initiative at the end are weakening APEC. Other countries are trying to combine their their participation within this this new initiative. United Kingdom is part of AUKUS. United Kingdom is also participating in the in the security body. But at the same time, United Kingdom has asked to become member of the CPTPP. They want to become member of this economic body because they know that just thinking about confrontation will not be possible or will not be feasible to have a long-term vision. As I mentioned, the big winner is going to be India. India is now trying to consolidate its regional role as a regional leader through bilateral arrangement. They have the cooperation and arrangement with Japan. They are member of the Shanghai organization, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And India is also part of the cooperation, has a mechanism cooperation through the Malabar, military exercise with the US. They are trying to consolidate some kind of regional leadership position. And through this initiative, the Indo-Pacific initiative, India will become a worldwide or world leader or world power. India will be at the end the big winner of this whole initiative. I hope that at the end, what it will prevail will be the Japanese position that to replace military confrontation, strategic confrontation for economic and a peaceful relationship. The respect of the international law, the respect of the integrity, and the respect of the connectivity that exists in Asia Pacific. Not only Peru, but mostly of the Latin American countries, the main trade partner is China. And we don't have anything to do with this Indo-Pacific initiative. We have to do with Asia Pacific, with APEC, more than the Indo-Pacific. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ambassador Kapunyai. Please, Professor Koga, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for your insights and comments, the Professor Aquino and Ambassador Kapunei. So yes, all the points you raised are well taken, and then I think these are really important point. I think what like Japan was trying to do through the Indo-Pacific is exactly what you said at first. The economic cooperation and socio-economic kind of development is going to be the most important factor for the regional the economic prosperity. So in order to kind of enable the potentials of the those kind of regional economy to be much kind of more realized, then the Indo-Pacific was the part of the Indo-Pacific was that. One kind of concern, though, Japan has been Japan has been worried about the Chinese kind of practice of the development assistance, because it was not necessarily accordance with the international standard, considering the human labor rights or the climate change. The environmental environmental degradation, and also the the community protection, etc., etc. So that was the kind of initial concern. Now I think the China took it to some extent diplomatically. I think the Xi Jinping said that we need to have the quality development. That means they need to incorporate international standards to be in accordance with the human rights, the labor rights, etc. So I think that this was a good trend. This was a good trend in 2019 also. But after the COVID-19, I think these are the talks put in the kind of back burner, they are low key. And then this was the kind of one concern, which is because the leading those Japan and then the other countries not to have the many cooperative side with the China. So I think what is necessary, is to engage, continue engaging, and then the APEC is a good side, the good institution, so they may want to actually do that. The downside is, again, there are two kind of sides of the international relations going on in the Indo-Pacific. One is the geostrategic, that is a kind of more military, and then also the strategic aspect, as the ambassador said, and also the economic side, the Professor Aquino and Alistair said. So we need to actually balance out. Japan was actually trying to place more emphasis on the pursuing the CPTPP. But then problem is one is the United States was not going to actually get involved in this this initiative in the near future, because there was a big kind of the opposition in the domestic arena. And on the other hand, China was kind of trying to get in. Many countries actually trying to get in the CPTPP. But the problem about the China is once China get in, then China would have the veto power to actually not let the other countries in the TPP. So if the United States and if other countries or other region like Taiwan wants to get in the CPTPP, then China would veto it. And if China vetoed it, then probably there would be no kind of expansion of the membership, which is actually centered on China. So I think like there's even though this is more kind of economic cooperation, there's this other kind of political consideration came in, and it becomes like the cooperation very, very difficult. So I think every country faced the dilemma here, the economics and then also the military and other dimension. But I think the United States took the kind of firm stance already because they thought the engagement with China could actually lead China to be more incorporated in the international community, and they actually, I think they believe that it's actually it was not true. I mean, they made an effort, and that's the kind of U.S. justification. And then we should actually stop engaging, and then we should actually put more pressure on China. So Japan could actually the bridge, probably like play a more kind of bridging role in the communicating with China and also other regional countries, including ASEAN countries, how to manage this kind of tension. And then the middle powers actually play a role. But it seems to me the trend is not like really on the positive side. I think that's becoming more and more kind of intensified. But then there's still the kind of possibility to have the bridge, and then Japan may be able to actually play a role. But it depends on the Japan's domestic politics as well, because the Japan's leadership is not how Japan's leadership is going to define the FOIP in the future. We are not sure yet. So probably like after the election, then we could actually know it. Sorry, this is just kind of initial comment.
Yeah, since Professor Goga, we know we are running out of time, but we have some questions. In fact, we have some questions. You can read probably in the chat room. If you agree, you can answer in 2 rounds of answer. I will read anyway for other people to understand. So the first is in Spanish, so I will translate to you. They said, what strategies is implementing Japan to ensure to safeguard its national security? No? And another question you can read there is Japan foreign policy related to its strategic vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific, related in part to Japan expansionist policy in the Showa age. That is considering that this time Japan sought to expand through the rim of the Pacific Ocean, the South China Sea, and planning to invade this. Perhaps you can answer this, and then we can read the next 3 questions.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. So just quickly, so Japan's kind of this is interesting. Japan's expansionist policy of the Showa age. I don't think so. Because again Japan had obviously the World War II legacy, and then they are now like really careful and then also aware of the international opinion. So unless the international community or regional states allows or give some kind of permission for Japan to do this, ask the regional the Japan to be present in the militarily or the economically. I don't think Japan is not going to be there. I mean, if there's a strong kind of pushback, then probably like the Japan is really going to be very, really hesitant to that. So I mean, the extending its scope does not necessarily, I mean, it's not actually the equivalent to the Japan's expansionist policy of the Showa era also. So that's the one. I mean, South China Sea, Japan's presence is limited, and it's actually cooperated with the other countries too. I mean, regional countries and also the United States and others. So that's that. I don't think that's the kind of a big concern. And then even if the Japanese government actually started to kind of think that way, domestic political audience is going to, I mean, the public is going to push back. Other thing is the relation between difference. Sorry.
So the first was what strategies is Japan implementing to ensure to safeguard its national security? In Spanish,
implementing.
Yeah. So what policies is Japan implementing to safeguard, to ensure its national security?
Okay. Yeah. So there are two sides of this. The one is the national security wise, it's more like the sovereign territory, and also the territorial integrity. So in that sense, Japan is actually building the defense capability to push back any kind of the threats coming from the outside, particularly the East China Sea. I mean, the Senkaku Islands, the Chinese presence is increasing, and then Japan is firm to defend its territory over that. But like beyond the, I think the national security, the free and open in the Pacific is not necessarily or not directly connected to the national security. Maybe like indirectly connected to national security in terms of the building international order. But then the international order is important. But then this actually is not the national security issue. We should actually distinguish these two. And then the free and open in the Pacific is more like the how the rules and norms can be created and constructed, and what kind of the appropriate rules and norms can be constructed in the international community. That is a kind of main focus. So that's not going against the using the military to expand its influence over the other countries or other regions and so. I think the Japan is trying to push more the order building through the free and open in the Pacific. And but so I think the in terms of the implementation of national security, it's just the kind of territorial integrity and then state sovereignty to protect that. Definitely, Japan is going to create the defense, the capability, but like that's so that's the two kind of separate issue, I guess.
Okay, Professor, next two questions. Are China current trade policy hurting or benefiting the free and open Indo-Pacific? And there is also a question from Facebook that they put here. They said, what is the relation between Japan and Taiwan? How Japan thinks to integrate that part of Asia? Does Japan also intend to economically support and developing countries in the Indian Ocean like China?
Okay, so yes, I think so from the second question, the Taiwan is really big important issue for the Japan, not only the geopolitically or geographically close, but also the economically beneficial and also politically similar. So in that sense, the Taiwan issue is really important, even though the Japan takes the one China policy too, and then the Japan recognized PRC as the China. But I think in terms of the connection, they try to kind of strengthen the obviously the Taiwan, and then they actually push forward peaceful resolution. And now, but having said that, like that's a diplomatic kind of the talk. But then having said that, like there might be some kind of the contingency in Taiwan, and then Japan actually needs to consider what kind of action Japan needs to take to maintain the peace and the stability in the Taiwan Strait. In that sense, that is a kind of one thing that the Japan is going to probably talk about with the United States. And then economically, I think the Japan is supporting the probably like in the principle, the TPP, the entrance. But I mean like not off probably offshore, but the I think the Taiwan's presence would actually bolster the economic prosperity in the region. So in that sense, I think the that is the economically the Taiwan is always welcome. Indian Ocean, the engagement with the Indian Ocean, yes, but then the I think to what extent I think it depends on how much budget and how much kind of ODA Japan can spend for that. So this is the more important. But obviously, the Japan is engaging with the Sri Lanka and then also Maldives in terms of the channels of communication. So maybe Japan would not be able to provide the ODA or economic assistance as much as China does, but then the Japan's engagement continues.
Professor, and what will be the last question is that Latin American countries have signed onto the Belt and Road Initiative through Memorandum of Understanding. As the Belt and Road Initiative have extended to Latin America, it is likely that the free and open Indo-Pacific will do also as well. Furthermore, could the CPTPP be a mechanism for extension of the free and Indo-Pacific into Latin America?
Yeah, this is really interesting question. I think yeah, it's completely possible. I think free and open in the Pacific was not necessarily mentioned when Japan interacts with the Latin American countries, but the principle was always kind of emphasized, such as connectivity and also the fundamental values, etc., etc. So in that sense, the principles were there, even though they don't use the term free and open in the Pacific. And then probably like if I mean Latin America at the end of the day it has the some connection with the like the connection, strong connection with the Pacific Ocean. So the free and open in the Pacific can extend. As the BRI is also extended to the Latin America, right? It used to be the kind of Asian continent, and then so, but then it actually extended to Latin America. So this is completely possible. And then CPTPP, yes, differently because some of the countries are already in the CPTPP. So in the Latin America, so I think that's actually could integrate it under the FOIP concept. Again, like the FOIP concept is evolving, so it's completely possible for the Japan to push forward and strengthen engagement in the Latin America.
Thanks, Professor. Really, we appreciate your time for giving us this interesting conference and a very, very interesting subject. And this is going to be a sure discussion in another of our webinars. Thanks, Professor. Before finishing, just let me give some announcement. And I tell you, Professor, our center is celebrating the 3rd anniversary on November 5th. So we're going to have a program. We invite you, but sadly, most of the talking will be in Spanish. But anyway, I tell everybody on November 5th from 4 p.m., we're going to have a celebration. We'll have the participation of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Peru, who is going to give some words. And also, there will be the ambassador of the Republic of Korea in Peru, who will also talk about, probably about relations between Peru and Korea. And that's all. We invite all of you to see again Professor Koga's presentation, because this is recorded. You can see again in the Facebook page of the Center of Asian Studies of San Marcos National University. Well, to finish, just if you agree, Professor, we can have a group picture of everybody. I got a picture, please. So to commemorative picture, okay? So if people want to open the camera to have a picture. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay. Again, yeah, was more people are. So another picture. Okay. Now we are going. 1, 2, 3. Thanks, Professor. Thanks very much. You for your time, and we hope
Thank you very much.
we can have in the future again too.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Professor.
Thank you.
Bueno,
Thank you.
gracias a todos y los esperamos entonces en las conmemoraciones del 3er aniversario del CEAS, que comienza el 5 de noviembre a partir de las 4 de la tarde. Gracias a todos.
Gracias, Carlos.
Gracias.
Ya, profesor. Ya.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ya. Thank you
for the lecture. Thank you for the lecture.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you.